Sometimes it's fun to switch things up a little bit. Today I'm going to make a layout, but I'm using Christmas cards as my inspiration. This is a collaboration with the creative design team and I am first up. So you're going to see a whole week full of videos taking Christmas card designs and making layouts based on those designs. Let's go ahead and jump into our project for today. I have three 3x4 photos, and these are going to be kind of cascading down my page is what I had in mind. This is going to be a single page layout. I tend to do that when I want to have littler stories in my albums. Sometimes a story just does not justify a double page spread. I make so many layouts that I'm really trying to keep an eye on how many albums I end up with every year. Sometimes small stories like this just deserve a one-page layout. So where I'm going to be drawing inspiration from these cards that I made is I have tone on tone embossing here. I have this beautiful embossing folder and I took a separate panel and embossed that and then stuck it onto my card. Same with this side so that I would have a smooth inside and I can write my message in here and everything looks neat and tidy. So that's going to influence my background first off. I'm going to start out with pool party background. I was tempted to go white, but I was like, you know what? Let's spice it up a little bit and use a color. Now I have the two-tone cardstock in the pool party color, and hopefully if I put them here, you can see the difference. This is the true color side. This is the light side. It's not a huge difference, but I do like that variation in the shades. And this is what I'm going to use to put on top, and I'm going to do some embossing. So I think what I want to do is create a grid. These photos are of my daughter and we were just having a little snowball fight in the backyard. And I love the bright colors that are in her snowsuit. This is one of those one-piece snowsuits. They work so well because you don't end up with snow going down your pants or up your back. When your coat inevitably pulls up, everything's connected and she stays so warm and snuggly in those. So I think what I want to do is make a grid on the background and emboss that grid to play up that design feature from my card. Now I have a couple options here. I could go 3x3 squares and make it probably a little bit more of a textured background, a little bit busier. I could go 4x4 squares. I could even do 3x4 rectangles, or I could simplify it and do 6x6. And now keeping in mind, I want to leave a little gap between, so I'm gonna make my cut just under. Maybe let's try 3x3 and see how that looks. So I'm going to cut mine at 2 7/8 by 2 7/8. It's just slightly smaller than 3x3, and we'll see how that looks. Since I'm working with a 12x12 canvas, that's why I want to work with either 3x3 or 4x4, something that I know will work out evenly. Okay, I'm just going to move my photos for now because I have a pretty good idea that I want them cascading down my page. I want there to be lots of movement since the pictures kind of indicate movement. It's a snowball fight. I think I'm going to go with the 2 7/8 by 2 7/8. I'm going to go ahead and cut all the rest of these and then I'll be right back. Gone ahead and laid out my squares. So I have 16 all together. And I just wanted to make sure that I liked how this was looking. They are not perfectly lined up. You could use a ruler to do that, or usually what I like to do is just lay them all out and then, slide them around until I get them into kind of an even spot where everything's somewhat evenly lined up. And then I just glue them down one at a time. But before I do that, I want to do some embossing. So I have this Plaster painting 3D embossing folder. I love the 3D folders because the texture is just beautiful on them. And this big size works really good for a project like this where I have a lot of pieces that I need to do. So I'm thinking I should be able to put these across. If you do not have this folder yet, it is a really nice one. And it is in the last chance section right now, actually, at a discount. So if you haven't picked it up, but it's kind of been on your mind, you might want to do that before it's gone. I don't think I can no, I can't fit in another row. So I'll just go ahead and do these. I am going to give this a light misting of water. This is the misting bottle that I use, and it gives this really soft all over mist. I'm gonna kind of aim off here to the edge because I don't really want to mist the rest of my paper. But it's a very like microfine mist, but it just gives enough moisture so that my paper isn't cracking horribly. I have a Big Shot, so when I'm embossing with my Big Shot and I'm using a 3D embossing folder because they are a little bit on the thick side, I open my base plate up to tab number 1, and then I use this specialty plate from Stampin' Up, and I use this instead of a cutting plate. It's a little bit thicker, and it seems to be just the perfect thickness for using with the 3D embossing folders. So I have my base, my folder, and I always put the folded end going into my machine that way to avoid breaking the folder. And then I put this plate on top and feed it through, and that gives me really good results. It's not too tight or too loose, but of course every machine is a little bit different, so you might need to play with your machine to find the exact perfect setting for your embossing folders. But there is that beautiful texture from the 3D embossing. That's so cool, and I think this works really good for a snowball fight. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do another batch. This is gonna take me 4 rounds to get all of these in here. While I'm doing this embossing, I just wanna tell you a little bit about the 31 Days of Christmas Cards. If you haven't heard about that event, it's a month-long event in October every year where we have a different class every single day in October. So you get 31 classes filled to the brim with inspiration, everything from fun folds to mixed media ideas, simple to complicated. There really is something for everyone. And also techniques that you can take beyond the project being shown and use in your everyday scrapbooking and card making. All of these cards are from last year's event, and I know this year is going to be equally as great. We are being joined by 2 guest designers, Lisa Stenz and Brandy Cox. We're so excited that they are bringing their beautiful styles to our event. Registration for 31 days is open now. The link is down in the description box below, but don't wait too long because it closes October 1st. I hope to see you there. And now let's jump back into today's project. I have embossed all of my squares. They are looking a little bit curled because of the moisture that I added, but that's all right. They will tape down onto my page okay. Might just make it a tad bit tricky to get them perfectly lined up. I will go around and just kind of uncurl them a little bit. I just didn't want them cracking when I put them through the embossing folder. As long as I can get one row kind of evenly spaced and straight, that will help me get all the rest of them down evenly as well. As I'm going here, I am putting my ATG tape around all 4 sides. Typically with embossed, especially 3D embossed paper, I would tend to use liquid glue, but I don't want to use that here in case I need to move things around, and I did have to. So I like to position one row going each direction because it helps line everything up very evenly. And if I can get those first 2 columns pretty straight, pretty even, then everything shakes out okay in the end. But using tape runner allows me some flexibility to be able to peel these up. So I put on a little bit more than I normally would in the hopes that that will be enough to hold it. If I find it peeling, I will take my liquid glue and just squirt a little bit under any spots that are peeling up. But I think this should do a pretty good job of holding it down. I got all my pieces stuck on. I did make sure, because this folder is directional, that all the pieces are going in the same direction. And I actually think now that they're on there, I want to give it a flip so that it's moving kind of from the left to the right instead of right to the left. And that way, it's kind of moving the same direction as my photos. I think that works just a little bit better. It's a tiny detail, probably really doesn't matter, but I like the way that looks. Before I attach anything down, I want to have most of my die cut elements on my page. So I'm going to use the Party alphabet dies. These are really good sized letters, and I have cut them from vellum. So I cut out the word winter, and I think maybe we'll even let it overlay one of my photos, maybe not that much. This is a pretty big element on my page, so I want to make sure I get placement right where I want it. We'll see if I want to stick with the vellum, if it's going to be too subtle of a detail. I do also have a stamp set that I think would work really nice. This is Snow Day. This came out last year and unfortunately is not available anymore, but I really like picking up these scrapbooking stamp sets. They are designed for scrapbooking and to give us good title options. These can be used for so many different things. Doesn't have to be winter, but just so happens that that works perfectly. So I do have one that says Snow Day. I could make just like a little banner or something and have that going along the bottom. What Fun would also be a good one. Magical Moments. There's one here in kind of a scripty font that says Wonderland. And I'm thinking we could do Winter Wonderland. I might need to put something on the edge of my letters to make it stand out. Maybe like a paint pen or something like that. It has to be something that can stick to a slick surface because otherwise it'll just get smudged all over the place on the vellum. So let's keep this here for now and just kind of use that as a placeholder. I could always go back and cut it from cardstock later if I want to. I think this word Wonderland would go really good under here. I just need something to put it on. So something like a label or a tag. This is the Greetings of the Season dies. This came out last Christmas. I'm not sure if it's still available on the website. I don't think so. This could layer right here and just have the word Wonderland on it. I also have the Stylish Shapes dies. I think one of these banners might work too. I love how these all have the piercing detail on them. This one's a little bit thicker, so that could work really good too. And now for the rest of our page, we don't need to add a ton, but I think some snowflakes would be really fun. If you watched my unboxing video, then you know I went a little bit crazy for all the different snowflake sets. This one is called Snowy Delights, and I love that this is a set that comes with layering stencils, so you can do some stenciling with snowflake designs, and it also has beautiful dies and beautiful stamps, and they all play together so nicely. You can layer these up in different layers, but wouldn't that just look beautiful coming out like behind? I'll probably layer that behind the photo, not over top of it. So maybe what I should do is add a mat to my photos, like a white mat, and then I can find some papers and cut my snowflakes out of papers and just have them cascading down. Probably have the final snowflake just kind of poking out right around here. And then I might pull in another snowflake set to get some variation in sizing. So I have this one. It's called Snowflake Kisses Dies. There is a stamp set that goes with it, but it is all sentiments. So I really got this because I wanted the variation in sizes of snowflakes. It really helps when you're clustering something. If you watch my last video that I put out, it was all about clustering and how you want different sizes of things to cluster together because it's just more visually pleasing to see, you know, large, medium, small. So I think that would work really good. I have some even tinier itty bitty ones there that I could work with too. So now to pick out some paper. I have this Lights of Aurora collection, and it's all like Northern Lights kind of themed on the front side, and it's absolutely gorgeous. But on the backs, we have some really pretty colors, which actually would go very nicely with this. You get a lot of sheets of each color, each pattern. It's a really pretty purple. I think that would go really nicely with all the colors in her snowsuit. And actually, I think I should be able to find most of the colors of her snowsuit in this pack. I don't know if there's any point in using this color because it's very similar. Kind of like the contrast of those other three colors a little bit more. And since this is 6x6 paper and there's tons of each pattern, it makes it really easy to die cut it up. So now it's going to be deciding what colors to cut everything out of. See if I can get 2. All right, so that might be what I'll do is I'll fill each of the 6x6 pieces with as many dies as I can fit in there. There's also this die that comes in that set in the Snowy Delight set that has these little kind of like star snowflakes. Those would be really pretty too. See if we got room for that one. And then some of the Snowflake Kisses dies. And then that will just give me a ton of die cuts to work with and layer. I'm gonna go do a bunch of die cutting in these 3 colors, and then I'll be right back. All right, I have all my colors. And I added a couple of extras because I had some of this white flocked paper. This is a new release, part of the online exclusives, and it really doesn't look like much on camera, but it is soft and very luxurious. So I thought, hey, why not? We will bring that in too. Since we don't have a white background, white things will actually pop. And then I have some brushed silver foil paper. Has a little bit of a subtle texture to it, and of course, really great shine. So I have some of that, and then the 3 colors, the pink, blue, and purple. So now I need to start arranging it. I did go ahead and map my photos. I have my title kind of where I think I want it to be. I might play with the placement just a little bit, but now the job is to arrange the snowflakes, and I also need to make a spot for some journaling. Now on my inspiration card, I did use the Spotlight on Nature dies to cut the circles, and then I also backed it. Some of them were backed with foil. This one was just backed with white. So I think I'll cut that right away and kind of figure out where I want that to go. Maybe up here, so it's balanced with the title, kind of opposite from the title. Because I am going to have the Wonderland strip down here, which is white, and so having them across from each other would probably make it well balanced. I'm going to start off finding places for my larger snowflakes. I'm probably not going to end up using all of these on here because I think that would be a little bit too much. But I want to bring in and just figure out where the big ones are going because those are going to be the boldest. And I want to get the colors and everything balanced. And what I mean about color balance is just not having all snowflakes that are the same color right next to each other. I kind of want to have them sprinkled throughout, especially because that pink is, I think, brighter than any of the other colors. It really draws your eye. So I want to make sure that it's spread out evenly around my kind of big, long cluster. Instead of individual clusters like I often do, this is kind of like one big, long one that stretches the whole length of my page. I am speeding this part up because it did take me quite a while. I usually spend quite a while on embellishing, especially when I'm making clusters, and that's just because I'm happier with the final result. If I take the time to try all the things, move pieces around, then usually I'm much happier with the final result. Once I get all those big snowflakes figured out and placed, now it's time to come in with the little bit smaller snowflakes, fill in any holes, make sure I'm moving the different colors to different spots around the page, and try not to get too many of the same color all grouped in one area. I don't know about you guys, but I love scrapbooking these kind of everyday moments type pages. I know it's little memories like this that I might not necessarily remember if I don't scrapbook them. There was a fresh snowfall, and it was actually a pretty warm day. You can see my daughter's not even wearing a toque or a beanie, as you might call it. But she just wanted to go out, play in the snow, throw the fresh powder around, and there wasn't good snow for having a snowball fight or building a snowman. But we had a good time just chucking it at each other, tons of giggles, of course, until the fun comes to an end when someone gets a face full of snow. And then, things aren't quite as fun anymore. Of course, the absolute worst is when you get snow right down your coat and then you just can't warm up after that. I'm going to just slip another one of those dark pink snowflakes in here. I felt like it needed another little punch of color to balance it out. And then I'm going to use my Quicksilver Spectrum Noir paint pen to edge all of the letters. These you need to set them aside and let them dry for a little bit because otherwise the paint will transfer everywhere. It's definitely worth the little bit of extra work. It just gives this beautiful silver pop to the edges and it'll make it stand out on my page. I went ahead and typed up my journaling on the computer, and I just used a circle for a text box and then measured with my ruler how much that circle was going to be going under my photo, and that helped me kind of line it up properly so that I could tuck the edge of that circle under. I'd already die cut my circle, so I printed it out on printer paper and then just taped my die cut circle over top and put it back through my printer. Usually I would just print it out and then die cut it, but I did it a little bit backwards this time. For the second part of my title, I used basic gray ink and the banner shape from the Stylish Shape dies and just tucked that under the bottom of my title. And now I have to attach my vellum die cuts to my page. If you were wondering how is she going to do that without the tape showing, this is my solution. I'm using a ruler that has holes for stitching, and I'm actually going to poke a bunch of holes and then stitch through them and stitch the letters to my page. You could definitely do this with a sewing machine and just sew right across. You might want to use some washi tape to keep your letters in place if you were going to do that though, because they might shift too much in the sewing machine. I'm pushing down pretty hard on that ruler while I poke the holes. And then I'm just using white DMC thread and going through and doing a simple back stitch. So just up through the second hole, down through the first hole, and then I'll go up through the third hole and back down through the second hole and just keep that going all the way along. It took me quite a bit to keep readjusting, make sure I was going through the right holes. And actually the easiest thing is to just move the page over to the edge of the table and then just kind of work off the edge. So I'm going to do that for most of this. I wanted to show you what I'm doing, but then it's just easier if I finish it off while it hangs over the edge of the table. This page is pretty much done, but I wanted to add one more thing to it. This is often my final step on pages, is just to add some bling to it. So I'm bringing in the Rhinestone Basic Jewels and I'm just scattering them around the kind of outside of my cluster, some on right on the snowflakes and some just scattered beside it. It's just a perfect little addition to add even more of a twinkle to this page and complete this cluster. Here's a look at the finished page. I'm going to try and tilt it in the light so you can see all the reflection from that metallic paper. I wish you could feel the flocked paper. It's so much fun. And then of course all the texture in the background from the 3D embossing folder. I did end up covering up quite a bit of that embossing actually. I hadn't really planned to have so many snowflakes, but I love how it turned out. Now make sure you come back later this week and check out all the rest of the videos from the creative design team. Come over and join us for 31 days of Christmas cards before October 1st, and I'll see you soon with another video.